All right, welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are traveling way out there, 2.73 million light-years away from Earth, deep into the Triangulum Galaxy. We're stepping aboard the United Nations cosmological vessel Kármán to unpack a chemical mystery that absolutely shatters everything we thought we knew about life in the universe. Seriously, we are going to explore the impossible ecology of a world that forces us to literally tear up the biology textbooks and start over. Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture this. Aboard the Kármán, lead astrochemist Dr. Maya Lin and Dr. Elias Thorne are staring at holographic projections of a world called Orus 9. It's this bruised, purplish planet orbiting a dim brown dwarf. Now, according to every single standard model of stellar evolution and planetary science we have, the data they're looking at simply shouldn't exist. But as Dr. Lin so perfectly puts it, the universe doesn't care about our models, or what we expect to find. I mean, just look at the brutal specs of Orus 9. The surface temperature hovers at a bone-chilling 90 Kelvin. To put that into perspective, that is negative 183 degrees Celsius. There is 0% oxygen in the atmosphere. There is absolutely zero liquid water. It's a frozen, toxic wasteland. And yet, despite these completely hostile conditions, remote probes sent down to the planet detected an impossible chemical disequilibrium in the atmosphere, specifically a continuous cycling of acetylene and ethane. Now, on Earth, or anywhere else for that matter, that kind of chemical cycling is a massive flashing neon sign pointing to one thing: an active living biosphere. So how is this even possible? Well, we've got to look at Orus 9's history on a macro scale. 2 billion years ago, that brown dwarf actually had a companion, a massive O-type star that eventually went hypernova. Before it blew apart, it bathed the entire system in intense cosmic rays for millions of years. This triggered a massive wave of cosmic ray spallation. Basically, high-energy rays literally shattered heavier atomic nuclei, things like carbon and oxygen, right down into lighter elements. So the ashes of this dead star bombarded the primordial nebula, turning an ordinary planetary disk into this bizarre anomaly where the crust is an astonishing 12% lithium. In the cosmos, finding a lithium-rich planet like this is practically like finding a desert made entirely of diamonds.
Section 1, Liquid Methane, diving into the alkane.
With this impossible chemical signature calling out from the surface, the Kármán's crew sends down a highly specialized probe, the Bethal, piloted remotely by the ship's engineer. Imagine the visual feed from this benthic crawler as it plunges through the atmosphere. The pressure is completely crushing, sitting at 4 times that of Earth. The descent takes the probe through a thick, opaque orange smog of toxic tholin compounds that completely blocks out the dim, reddish light of the sun above. And then it touches down. But it doesn't land on rock. The bedrock here is water ice, frozen as hard as granite. And crashing against this ice is a vast, pitch-black, perfectly smooth, oily ocean made entirely of liquid methane and ethane. It's a completely non-polar environment. Now, what's really interesting about this is what happens when the crawler slips beneath the surface of that oily black sea. Its headlights illuminate something staggering. Rising from the ocean floor are these towering fractal structures. They look like iridescent crystalline coral reefs. But they aren't static rocks, you know? They are actively pulsing, shifting in color from silver to deep violet, and remarkably, they're emitting substantial heat and electrical currents directly into the freezing methane. Section 2. Rules of chemistry, rewriting the paradigm. To actually comprehend what these pulsing structures are, we have to zoom way into the microscale and look at how life functions without water. Check out this comparison. On Earth, the backbone of life is carbon. It's got 4 valence electrons, letting it form rigid chains and complex 3D structures, kind of like molecular Lego bricks that fold perfectly in water. But on Orus 9, the core of these macromolecules is lithium, and lithium only has 1 valence electron. Under normal Earth conditions, it violently combusts upon contact with water. It can't build long, rigid chains. You'd logically think, okay, that's a chemical dead end for life, right? But in an anhydrous, ultra-cold liquid methane ocean, completely devoid of the disruptive polarity of water, lithium becomes the foundation of an entirely new biochemistry. And this is where Dr. Maya Lin makes a staggering discovery in the probe samples, the organolithium hexamer. Because lithium is electron deficient, these atoms don't just form simple one-to-one bonds. Instead, 6 lithium atoms come together to form this tight octahedral cage, engaging in what's known as multicenter bonding. Their single valence electrons are smeared out and shared across the entire cluster, so it creates a metallic core wrapped safely inside an organic shell of carbon and hydrogen. So the absolutely crucial point here is this. At 90 Kelvin, terrestrial carbon-based life would freeze entirely dead. The thermal energy is simply way too low to break normal covalent carbon bonds. But these multi-center lithium bonds, they're weaker and they're highly dynamic. They can break apart, rearrange, and snap right back together, even in the deep freeze. In this alien ocean, these shifting clusters act as fluid, highly efficient enzymes. And this brilliantly illustrates how these organisms actually survive in a perfect loop. First, they breathe the atmospheric hydrogen. Second, they eat the highly reactive acetylene that continuously rains down into the ocean, which, by the way, is synthesized by UV flares from the brown dwarf above. Third, they use those flexible lithium clusters as a catalyst to hydrogenate the acetylene. And finally, they excrete ethane. Now, this is an exothermic reaction. They are literally acting as living catalytic converters, generating their own body heat just to survive the cold. Section 3. Without any cells. The glass Leviathans. But the awe doesn't stop at those static plant-like reefs. As the crawler descends further into the abyssal trenches, we encounter the mobile animals of this world, the glass Leviathans. These creatures are the size of terrestrial whales, but they look like massive, translucent, geometric chandeliers gliding silently through the dark. They don't have recognizable heads, no bilateral symmetry, no fins or appendages. To move, they use an aggregate phase shift. They are literally pulling themselves through the thick liquid methane by continuously disassembling and reassembling the organolithium clusters in their outer layers. They actually change their molecular geometry to swim.
Now, you might be wondering, where are their cells? Well, the answer is, they don't have any. The lipid bilayers that make up earthly cells require water to hold their shape. In nonpolar liquid methane, our cellular membranes would dissolve in an instant. Instead, these leviathans are composed of a coacerate. Their bodies are a single, continuous liquid phase of structured organometallic fluid that somehow remains distinctly separated from the surrounding methane solvent. They are, for all intents and purposes, giant, highly organized living droplets.
So without cells, they obviously don't have brains or neurons as we understand them. Yet, visible right inside their translucent bodies are these intricate networks of pulsing silver veins. Because the core of their macromolecules is a smeared metallic lithium cluster, they actually use delocalized electrons to transmit signals. They aren't relying on slow chemical synapses. This is pure metallic conduction. Their entire body acts as a giant, flexible, superconducting neural network, processing information at brilliant speeds across their metallic cores. Imagine this incredibly suspenseful moment. One of these massive leviathans senses the crawler's nuclear battery. It extends this jagged tendril of crystalline lattice to literally taste the titanium hull. It's chemically testing the activation energy of the crawler. Finding the metal completely inert and devoid of reactive triple bonds, it smoothly retracts the tendril and just glides away into the dark. Oh, and it's also fascinating how they reproduce. Mature entities will suddenly fracture along geometric fault lines, practically shattering into a dozen perfect miniatures of themselves, with each one carrying the parent's organolithium templates. Section 4. Unbridgeable Gulf, the Cosmic Divide. Let's zoom back out for a second and see how this builds into a profound, almost melancholy realization for the crew. Just look at the stark chemical contrast between our two worlds. Earthly biology is loud, hot, oxygen-breathing, and entirely dependent on polar water. Aurus 9 biology, it's slow, cold, anaerobic, and built on incredibly delicate, non-polar organometallic fluids. These biological and chemical paradigms are complete opposites. And this brings us to Elias's heartbreaking realization. The very things we need to survive, water and oxygen, are essentially weapons of mass destruction to these lithivores. If a single drop of water from a human's breath were to touch a glass leviathan, the polarity of the water would violently strip the lithium right out of their bodies. The reaction would be explosively exothermic, literally boiling them alive in an instant. The biological gulf between us and them is entirely tragically unbridgeable. Because of this lethal incompatibility, the crew has to initiate a strict sterile departure protocol. Every probe and crawler is remotely commanded into the deepest abyssal trenches and permanently shut down. Their nuclear batteries are sealed forever, their memory cores wiped completely clean. Not a single microscopic contaminant, not one stray proton of Earth's biology can be allowed to pollute this delicate alien ecosystem. Only once this is absolutely confirmed is the order given to spool up the Al-Kubir FTL drives for the long jump back toward our local group. As they leave the system behind, Elias records his final log, leaving us with this incredibly powerful thought. Life is an opportunist. It is the capture of energy to build order out of chaos. This brilliant passage reminds us that the universe waking up and experiencing itself doesn't actually require a yellow sun or rigid carbon chains. It simply requires the defiance of entropy, taking whatever tools happen to be available, even in the freezing dark.
Please like and subscribe.